Hey, Matt, what's the deal with Twitter?
Actually, Fred, it's pronounced Twitter. It's a social media platform so you can share information with family, friends, and the world.
I guess I just don't see why it's important to tweet about how good your ham sandwich is.
It's more than that, Fred. It's a way to also keep up with our favorite baseball team, the Pirates, and the players.
So it is really informative and inspirational, huh?
See, here's an example. Neil Walker just tweeted about how tuna fish sandwiches helped him recover from that appendectomy.
Quick, ask him if he prefers his tuna fish sandwich toasted or untoasted.
Fred, now you're talking Twitter.
Hello again, and welcome to Bucco Banter. My name is Fred Rossano, and Matthew Peaslee is late as usual.
Hey, Fred, I'm here. Sorry I'm late.
Well,
Let's get this show started. Wait a minute.
Hey, I am not changing.
I'm not changing either.
People, let me tell you about my best friend. He's a warm-hearted person who loved me till the end. People, let me tell you about my best friend. He's a one-boy, cuddly toy, my up, my down, my pride and joy. People, let me tell you about him. He's so much fun. Whether we're talking man to man or whether we're talking son to son, 'cause he's my best friend. Yeah, he's my best friend. La la, ba da 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 ya, ba da 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 ba, ba da 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 ya.
And we are back, and fortunately you decided to change, Matt, because I wasn't into the twin thing.
Yeah, well, I'm fresh, I'm clean, I'm looking pretty good, and so are our Pirates.
Yes.
Really had a nice couple games there, taking 2 or 3, taking 2 or 3 from the Dodgers, sweeping the Rockies, looking good at home before they head out on a pretty big West Coast road trip.
Big road trip, especially out west, where they haven't had too much success over the years, even years. Over the years, when they were good and then bad, and it's still West Coast trips usually
Right.
don't turn out to be too good for them.
Right, especially they're facing the Giants, who are one of the better teams in baseball down the road there. The Rockies are in the bottom. For when you don't see these teams too often, or really don't know too much about them, you don't. I'm sure it's a lot harder to scout the West teams than it is Central opponents and East opponents that you normally see quite regularly. But we're not going to see them at PNC Park for about a week and a half, and let's hope that they can win those series out there and keep gaining ground in the division, because that's what at one point last week they were just a game and a half out of first place.
Yeah, it was everywhere. There was 2 teams were tied in the East, the West, and the Central, the top, and then the Pirates and the Reds were a couple games back. But now we'll cross our fingers, see how they do on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's still anybody's race, and we got to hope that some of the teams ahead of us start losing, like the Cardinals and the Reds and the Brewers, because down. I don't think we don't face another Central team till end of August, I believe. So we just got to take care of ourselves, and hopefully those other teams are getting beat up on also, and hope we'd like to be in good shape come the end of the month.
Overall, not too much. Like we said, they've been playing pretty good baseball. And unfortunately, Pedro Alvarez continues to have some throwing problems.
Yeah, he's leading the league with 22 errors, and Pedro Alvarez got 22 errors, not only leading the Pirates but leading the entire league. Jordy Mercer, their shortstop, has 7 errors, and that's the next between Pedro and Jordy. And Jordy's having a pretty good career or pretty good year at the plate and in the field, but just when you hate to see Pedro struggle like this, even on clean ground balls he fields at third. He's thinking too much and getting it over to first.
It's almost like the hard ground balls where he doesn't have to think. He throws it there without a problem.
He can backhand it and whip it over.
I think it was the one the other day that could have cost them the game. I think it did. Again, I don't remember if they won that game or not, but he cost them a couple runs, and I think Josh Beckett was.
Yeah, that Dodgers game. He 2 runs came in because of him, and it ended up being 2-run ball game that we
and
won.
that ball, and Beckett wasn't even running the ball out, and he just fired it. Oh,
it was like, and he still had plenty of time to get him,
Yeah.
but and it's the pitcher, and you would think, but at this point, it's all mental with him.
Oh, yeah, it has to be. And I know Bob Walk said too. He's a little concerned that this has gotten to the point where I remember Steve Sachs, and I think it was Chuck Knobloch or somebody else too that. They couldn't throw the ball from second base. All of a sudden, they had a mental block, and they couldn't do it anymore. It was for the rest of their career. They never got over that hump.
I remember seeing Chuck Knobloch throw one like at the runner's back as he was running the first base in one of the late '90s playoff games, and Steve Blass of all people too. Don't they call it Steve Blass disease?
Yeah,
or pitching,
couldn't hit home plate.
Couldn't hit home plate, but yeah, and Pedro is. It's tough to watch him at the plate too. Sometimes, I mean, I still like trotting him out there as much as we can because he is our power threat, but it's been a weird year for him, especially, and who knows what the future, if he has a future in Pittsburgh or what they're going to do with him by the end of the year.
I mean, it's a catch-22. If he does well, then his value goes up to trade him. If he does badly, then his value goes down to want to re-sign him, because you don't want to re-sign somebody that's going to be that inconsistent. Now with the fielding problems, that's even added to the problem. I mean, until this year, I really thought he was going to turn into a really solid third baseman because he has a rifle for an arm. But it's just not turned out. And he hasn't had one of those real big hitting-wise where he has carried the team for a week or so.
I know. You think that if he gets one game where he's 3 for 5 with a home run and 3 RBIs, like, okay, maybe he's turning the corner here, but he doesn't really. It's not consistent with him this year for whatever reason.
So that they can't do anything. People say move him over to first base. You can't do that now.
No,
that's going to be something that has to be done after the season's over. Mm-hmm. But primarily, you're stuck with him. Yeah. And I think in today's lineup that Morel guy is starting at third base, and
Well, and what they have been doing with just putting Josh Harrison in, whether it's like in the 6th inning or something, like almost pinch hitting for him. And
I would have never, ever would have thought that Josh Harrison would be, pinch hitting for Pedro Alvarez or playing defensively for Pedro Alvarez at any time in his career.
I mean, he's cooled off a little bit since his hot streak of a couple weeks ago, where he just was on fire. But he's still flirting with 300, and he's the guy I want to see in the lineup.
Defensively, I still worry about him though too, but especially in the outfield. But those are problems that they'll just have to solve themselves over the offseason. One of the other things though we have coming up within a short time, the trading deadline is coming up, and what do you see happening?
You want to see them get better because they are in the thick of the playoff race. They need something. That's going to push them. I think they need a pitcher, whether it's another starter, or I'd prefer to see another bullpen arm. But the funny thing is that guys like Joaquin Benoit and Houston Street were traded from the Padres not too long ago, but the Padres got a lot in return there. I don't want to sacrifice one of our future stars like a Josh Bell or somebody in the minor. I don't want to give that up just for relief pitching. But I think they're going to get something done. I don't think it's going to be a big splash like it was last year, getting Morneau and Marlon Byrd. But I think they'll add some piece, whether it's maybe just an extra bat off the bench too. I mean, Travis Snyder's been playing decent in his pinch hitting appearances, but I still think we need something.
But I really don't know what. I don't know what direction to go in either. I don't know whether they need a starter because you still have Garrett Cole coming back, and their starting pitching has been surprisingly good. The relief pitching has turned it around too.
Yeah.
I know people are going to laugh when I say, that they keep talking about a guy like Ryan Howard. The Phillies are willing to eat up a huge amount of his contract. I mean, I don't see, do you keep going with Ike Davis and Gabby Sanchez?
If I had to pick one spot on the field that's our weakest, I would put first base over even Pedro at third base. I don't have faith in Ike or Gabby to – Ryan Howard's just been pretty bad this year, and he's had injury problems over the past 2 years. And maybe we just, and you hate to say, he's the guy that needs a change of scenery just because he's been with the Phillies his entire career and has seen a lot of success. But maybe he's now obviously past his prime. But
he's owed, I think, $70 million.
Yeah, we don't. I don't. If the Phillies are willing to eat a lot of that. Maybe we try to work out a deal with that, but again, I don't want to sacrifice the future for not only just to rent a player for 2 months, but a guy that's on the decline like Ryan Howard either.
Yeah, also, there's questions about it, and it's not really fair to Polanco, but he had a rough streak there. And I don't know. It's nothing against him because I think eventually he's going to be, the great ball player. But do you want to go in, to the stretch run with a guy of a 22-year-old that's shown some times that he's just being overmatched.
Yeah.
And till recently, once the pitchers catch up to him, and once the scouting reports go around, then. That's
what it seems like.
He has to adjust.
Hurdle's been saying the league's been punching back. I mean, ever since Polanco's hot week to start off his major league career, he has been. He looks silly at the plate sometimes. I mean, they're getting him with curveballs, and he's striking out a lot more alarming these past couple weeks. But you're right. But we can look at last year. We give the ball to Garrett Cohen, the biggest game of the year, over a seasoned veteran like A.J. Burnett. I mean, it's apples and oranges. A right fielder and a pitcher.
You never know. You never know with these young kids how you're going. He has no track record. You don't know how he's going to react. Look at Michael Walker last year with the Cardinals. How old is he? 21.
Yeah, and he was lights out.
Yeah, he was the one that turned it around for them in that game against the Pirates there. But oddly enough, it looks like we're going in to the stretch run or coming up to the trade deadline with the same questions. Right field, first base.
Yeah. Some pitching.
Yeah, some pitching in there that we had last year.
We're in a better position. I'd say we're in a better position now than we were at the beginning of the year, obviously, record-wise, and they are starting to win. But who knows? We don't know what they're going to do until our next episode of Bucco Banter. We'll see what happens then.
So tune in next time to find out what happened with the trade deadlines.
But just wait. There's still a lot of Bucco Banter left. But yeah, the questions will be answered on our next episode
of Bucco Banter.
Yep, Fred, it's time for Bucco Banter Show and Tell, and it's your turn to bring in a goodie for us. And what do you got today?
I have brought with me today a picture or a card of Jim Morris. And a lot of people don't know he was on a baseball card, but he was. He was the guy that was featured. The story of Jim Morris was featured in the movie The Rookie, starring Dennis Quaid. Right. And this is what, if we can get a close-up on camera 3 here, this is what Jim Morris looks like. And I don't know how close it was. The movie was, the storyline to the
about
movie.
Him being a high school coach in Texas. And
the back of the card says, became national news story by going from high school baseball to coach to the show in 4 months. And this was one of my favorite movies. Yeah, I really enjoy watching this movie.
And just from knowing the story because of the movie, it's pretty cool that he made his major league debut in like his hometown, playing in the ballpark in Arlington in Texas, and had his high school kids and everybody from town going to see him. And
pretty cool story behind him. There are a couple parts of the movie I really enjoyed, with the one part where he's after the team gets good and he agrees to go to a tryout. Right. And he goes to the tryout, and before the tryout, actually, he's throwing a pitch against the speed machine that's on the highway, right. And it's flashing, and he's thinking he's throwing. I think it was
like 70-something, because then the lights, it comes up and
then the bulbs hadn't flashed after he had passed it up, and he was like disappointed because it was only 70-something. Yeah. And here it was 98 instead of, and once the bulbs flashed again. And it was just a good movie. Again, I don't know exactly how close it was to the actual truth of what happened. I'm sure they took some liberties there of making it conform to the movie and made things a little bit more exciting. But overall, it's one of my favorite baseball movies of all time, my favorite sports movies of all time. It just it's a good wholesome family movie if you have kids or whatever to watch too, and something to enjoy with your family.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
Ask the experts. Ask the experts. Ask the experts. Ask the experts.
Fred got a whole new crop of questions in here for Bucco Banter Ask the Experts. But I think we're already prepared for it. I got the thinking cap on, and you got a new one, huh?
Yes. I'm debuting this new hat. It's a new prop we found. Actually, I found it in the bottom of my drawer at my desk. But I'm thinking this is going to absorb some of the brain matter that started seeping out of my head.
Spongy. I think
some of the other questions.
You needed to change the scenery, and I think.
But we're ready to go. I'm ready to go.
Well, let's see how good that hat is, and I'll ask you question number 1. Here we go. Would you trade Pedro Alvarez now, later, or try to sign him to a long-term contract? Sent in by Michelle B. of Steubenville. And that's exactly what we were talking about in our segment a couple of minutes ago.
Well, you can't trade him now because, you're in the heat of a pennant race right now, and you just can't trade him now. I think they're hoping he turns it around defensively, offensively, and has one of those big stretches where he just hits 7 home runs in like 2 weeks.
Because he can't do it. He has done it in the past.
He's had 2 or 3 of them last year or whatever, and even into the playoffs he was really good. But you can't trade him now. Yeah. You just you might want to do something after the season's over.
Go question number 2 for you. What should be the Pirates' highest priority come trade deadline time? Right where we are now. Starting pitching, relief pitching, first base, right field. Sent in by a Bucco fan from Burgettstown.
Again, this is a rehash of what we had just said for the most part, but I really think first base is going to still have to be. I kind of like Neil Walker in that 4 spot, but I think he'd be better.
He's not a cleanup.
He's not your prototypical number 4 guy. I would like to see them get somebody else like they did last year with Justin Morneau
or John Buck even.
But I just don't see them continuing with that platoon system there at first. Starting pitching, we talked about it.
They seem to be they have enough arms. It's going to carry them.
And again, we talked about it. I don't want to see them trade something a really quality prospect for next year down the road for a guy that's just going to be around for a couple months and let him go free agency.
Right. Yeah, we'll just have to see what happens with that. But 2 good questions started off, and
let's see here.
What do you got for me?
Okay, question number 1: when Cole returns, who should go? Brent of Steubenville. All
right, Brent. With the way our starting rotation has been setting up, Liriano comes back, and Brandon Compton was gone a couple weeks. He's been gone a couple weeks now. I still like Jeff Locke pitching. I still like Vance Worley pitching. Edison Volquez got a little shaken up in his last start. Liriano looked good in his stint coming off the DL. I think they're going to – I don't want to say they're going to go with like a 6-man rotation because that doesn't make any sense. But I think it's either going to be Locke or Worley. Truthfully, I think it'll be Worley that goes before Locke does, just because Locke has been the hometown guy for all these years now. And the way he started off the year in AAA, he definitely earned his spot back on the big league team. I don't want to cut ties with Worley at all. Put him in the bullpen, see what he can do. But I think Worley's going to be the first one taken out of the rotation. I think Jeff Locke will still.
Yeah, but then what happens to your relievers? Then somebody still has to.
Somebody still has to go out of the bullpen. You're right, and the way Ernesto Frieri's been pitching as of late, I like the way he's been doing. It's not as good as he's better than what he was in the first 2 starts since coming over to the Pirates.
Okay, you're the GM. Who goes? Come on, quick.
Genmar Gomez.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, and Stolme's still hurt too, right? Isn't Pimentel still on the DL?
Does he? No, he doesn't have any options either.
Yeah. I think Genmar goes.
Ooh.
So who are you kicking out then?
I don't know. I think you'd have to get rid of
Ernesto. Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough decision to make. That's why we're not the GMs.
But we are the experts.
That's right.
Last question.
The last question is, who is one of the cooler guys to talk to on the Pirates? Jonathan R. of Martins Ferry.
Good question, Jonathan.
Wait. Yeah, this guy always sends in very, very intelligent questions.
It's good to have a question like this, too, to kind of take the pressure off of us, but it's still a fantastic question. Neil Walker. We ran and raved about how just a good representative Neil Walker is for the city of Pittsburgh, for the Pirates. He's so well-spoken in interviews. I've had the pleasure of talking to him one-on-one in a couple interviews at some Pirates caravan stops, and he always seems energetic and interested in who he's talking to, because he talks to thousands of people, and there's probably thousands of people that come up to him and said, "Hey, Neil, I remember watching you play Little League at Pine Richland," and he has to nod his head and shake his head and say, "Yeah, I remember you guys."
He doesn't even know he doesn't remember anybody.
And that's the tough part about being a baseball player. Not only do you have to perform 160 games out of the year, you got to be an advocate for baseball. You got to do community appearances. You got to do all kinds of charity work. And
I agree with you. I think Walker is just a cool guy. You know what? I don't think he'd be any different if he was playing somewhere, in Tampa or L.A. or whatever. He'd be the same guy with this. He just understands what the media guys want and gives them enough information, but doesn't he jokes around.
There's nothing recycled with him. It's you ask him a question, he's going to give you a well thought and honest answer, which you don't get a lot of times out of
good and bad. Players, I mean, he'll say when they were stunk or whatever, did something bad or whatever, But again, I agree with you. He's probably one of the cooler guys on the team. Anybody else you could think of?
Andrew McCutcheon still too. I mean, just recently he's been doing a lot of things with Make-A-Wish, and it seems like almost every day a little kid comes in to talk and play catch with him before the games, and he even invited a 100-year-old woman before a game a couple days ago, and this 100-year-old woman was on the field with him for first pitches and posed for pictures, and he is the face of the Pirates, and everyone wants to meet Kutch, but it seems like he does as much as he can
I think
to give back.
McCutcheon and Walker are what they call the two ambassadors of baseball, especially ambassadors for Pirate baseball.
Seems a lot different from the Pirates' last glory days of Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla when they were stuck-up jerks, and they're just the complete opposite. They're good guys you want to cheer for, and I'm glad to have them.
Yep.
Thanks, Jonathan, for a great question, and everybody that sent in Ask the Experts questions.
Yes, and that is another edition of Bucco Banter. Tune in next time for another exciting episode.
Question number 2. What do you think of Josh Harrison's breakout season, Matt?
Well, Panda, you got to be really happy with what Josh has done over the past couple years.
Yes.
Really one of our better players on the team. He's an all-star after all. Put him anywhere on the field, and he's going to perform.
You're correct.
He does really good at the plate. Awesome plays in the field. Really like seeing Josh Harrison out there.
I'm kind of surprised of his performance in the infield. Or actually, outfield because